nuts. Yes.
Nut.
Nut.
Nut. Wow.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Hey everyone, welcome back to my apartment kitchen. This week's Genius recipe is very simply one of the most comforting things that I've cooked in a very long time.
Here, can you hang on just a little bit longer, little bug?
I was so lucky to be joined by Chitra, who told me the story behind this recipe and also walked me through it to give me all of her tips so that you will have them too. She wasn't here the whole time. Don't worry. Hi, Chitra.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you? Good.
I'm so glad that you could join us this morning because I would really love to hear more about this recipe from you.
Many people know khichdi, right? Which is the rice and lentil dish. It's a one-pot dish, but I think a lot of people don't know that it's a dish that's made all throughout India. And in my mother's home, where she's from in Bangalore, they call it huggi. So it's basically, rice and then yellow lentils. And so basically what happens is that the rice and the lentils cook together. They kind of form this like really creamy, nice texture. And then you also add ghee or butter to make it really kind of almost rich, right? And then in her version, you spice it with black pepper and cumin, and as well as ginger and coconut. It's like a complete comfort food.
So should we move over to the kitchen and actually make our huggi?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
And action.
Thank you. Mike's glad to be back in the director's chair. Okay, Chitra, I think I have everything pretty much meased out, but I did want to talk to you about the ginger a little bit because I feel like every time I go to grate ginger, I do not feel very confident that I'm doing it the most efficient way possible. So I'm curious if you have any recommendations, if you have any favorite tools. Like I have a microplane or I have this thing that I think is intended for ginger. What do you like to use?
I don't have it with me. It's this tiny little grater that I'm not sure if you can get it at an Indian store, but I mean, using a microplane is going to be, will work. But I feel like the grates on mine are just a little bit bigger than a microplane. Another way you could do it is some people just chop their ginger too for this recipe. You know what I mean? So I feel like if you don't have, something to grate the ginger with, then like just chop it really, really finely too. And I do feel like the frozen ginger trick too works well where, then you don't get as much of the fibrous stuff, right?
I don't know that trick. Is that you just keep it in the freezer and it's easier to grate?
Yeah, if you leave it in the freezer and then grate it frozen, you'll reduce the amount of kind of like threads and stuff.
Wow, and then that means that you can also keep it on hand all the time. You don't have to have fresh ginger on hand.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I have all my ginger grated. And by the way, I'm making a double recipe so that we can have more leftovers. So everything that I'm doing is twice the amounts, just FYI. So I think now everything is ready and I can just rinse my rice. Okay, that looks much clearer. But I am just gonna leave that because I'm going to toast the lentils now. Okay, and this is the part I'm gonna take you with me for the lentil toasting.
Okay.
So that I can show you what they're doing. So I've got my moong dal, the split mung beans.
Without skin, and you can also get them with the skin. My dad sometimes will make this recipe with the split moong dal or the split mung bean with the skin. You can get that in the Indian store too.
So this toasting part is to make the dal less sticky. And bring out more of the nutty flavor.
Yes, yeah. Move it around just so that it gets evenly kind of toasted. And you may smell a little bit of nuttiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right as you said that, I started smelling it.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna add them to the rice. Or, yeah, I think I'll add them to the rice just because it's like easier to dump into.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of interesting thing that happened to me last time too. It, like at first, it like, when I put it in, when it's hot, it like all, does it do that for you too?
I've seen that, yeah. You just break it up.
All right, now I'm going to drain them. It's okay to just put them back in the hot pot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm so glad you're here.
It's so interesting just to like watch the recipe being made too.
Yeah?
Like I feel like, you know, when you write a recipe, like you don't really have this experience.
It's like a focus group, sort of.
Yeah. You may need to add more water if it's getting to be too dry too. I feel like people should not be, you know, so strict about like, okay, we can only use like 3.5 cups of water kind of thing, you know?
I love the part at the end when it's like, when, you know, your rice is basically fully cooked and then you go and add another 1/2 cup of water and stir it all around. It's just so cool to see it like transform in that last moment.
Totally, yeah. Because I found when I was making it, I wanted it to be just add water and you know what I mean, and cook it and it's done. But it just never, you know, got to the right consistency for me at that point. So I thought that that would be a good way to kind of like ensure that the consistency was correct too, you know? Because you can always cook it off more if you feel like it's too watery, but I don't think it's, you know, it's never that watery, I feel like, with this recipe.
Okay, so it's not quite to a boil yet, but it is starting to get some of this foam.
Skim the foam off with the spoon. I usually kind of like will skim it off and throw it into the sink.
How thorough are you usually with the foam skimming?
It doesn't have to be that thorough.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Do the best that you can, but it doesn't have to be like every single piece of foam.
I'm really glad to have that permission because I'm kind of a perfectionist sometimes.
Oh.
Mike's laughing.
It's like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Now we
2 hours later, all the water's gone from the pot.
Fire alarm's going off.
Yeah. Let me show you where I'm at.
Okay.
Like, do you think that's good or do you think I should skim a little more?
Yeah, that's perfect. That looks fine. Yeah.
I appreciate that in your recipe it says that you can use ghee or unsalted butter, just simply because I don't have ghee right now. I love that it can just work with either one. So I'm just gonna dump my butter in. Is there any difference that you'll get from using butter versus ghee? Oh, and this is the turmeric.
I haven't seen, but maybe it's like it's less toasty, possibly, you know? Because ghee has kind of like that nutty, a little bit more nuttiness to it.
Okay, I've added my butter, turmeric, and ginger. And now I need to just lid it up and let it cook, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Turn it down really low. Now is the perfect time to fry the cashews.
Yes.
And grind up my other spices. Okay, so my butter is melted. I'm dumping in my cashews.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna kind of like shake them here and there, right, to get them like evenly toasted.
I don't know if you're using whole cashews or broken.
Shoot, they are. That was something I meant to ask you, shoot. I was gonna break them with you and I forgot. I was gonna ask you how big they should be.
You could probably just chop them up after you fry them if you wanna do that. So if you have whole cashews, you could just chop them up very roughly because you still want, you know, little pieces of the cashew, right? And then you can fry them. But, you know, if you forget and you fry them, then you could let them cool and then chop them later.
Perfect. Your way, the way that you have it in the recipe that I should have done it is better though, because it will happen faster. Now I have to wait for whole cashews to toast instead of smaller pieces of cashews.
The cashews one part of the recipe is kind of like an active part of it, I feel like, you know, because they can burn pretty easily.
I think these hopefully will be more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So I'm gonna dump these out so I can chop them. While those cool, I'm gonna grind my spices that are gonna go in the chunk. So I have the black peppercorns and the cumin seeds.
Yep.
And apologies, this is probably gonna be noisy and rattle the laptop a little bit.
It's like an earthquake.
Okay, let's see. Can you see that?
Yeah. If you have pepper in a grinder, you can even do that, right? If you're kind of in a rush, and then you have like cumin powder or whatever, or even just cumin seeds, you know. But I feel like there's something about like just like mashing these spices up, and they just like there's some freshness that comes to this dish by doing this.
It smells amazing, having freshly ground, even before getting into the butter or ghee. And then I'm just gonna roughly chop these. How big would you say the pieces should be, whether you're breaking them before or after?
If you have like a half of a cashew, you could maybe like, you know, a half or a third of that is like kind of how large you want it to be.
Okay.
So take each half and cut it.
Don't tempt me.
I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't say that to you.
How long do you want to be here?
I get such a sick pleasure from like finding like the very last too large piece of something and individually cutting it. But I won't do that today. Okay, so everything is ready, I think, for the last stages of huggi. So I'm bringing you back over to the stove. And, ooh. Actually, this has a fair amount of liquid. I must have had it on a really low simmer. So I might not need to add the extra water that you talked about.
Does it look cooked? Like, can you mash it? So if you mash it, you'll see it'll start to come together.
Does that look pretty well incorporated to you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So now I can add the rest of the ghee or butter and the dried coconut. And this is unsweetened dried coconut. I actually have some from an Indian store, so it's like the coconut powder.
Okay, nice.
But basically any unsweetened dried shredded coconut is fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and salt.
And so at that point, I don't know if the dried coconut is if you need to add more liquid at that point, but you can assess, you know? When everything is kind of cooked, you can put some of the cashews in and then, you know, reserve a couple to like kind of garnish the dish. And just mix those in.
Mike chose a really good spoon for this whole operation.
You're welcome, everybody.
Wait,
What?
Oh God.
that's what I did something wrong.
Okay, okay.
The butter was supposed to be for the chunk and I put it in.
There's 2 tablespoons of butter in and then 2 tablespoons of butter in the chunk.
I think I put all of it in though, already.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, people put a lot of ghee and butter into this dish traditionally. So just maybe think of it like you're not going to be putting in ghee like later when you serve it.
Perfect.
Because you've already put it in. Another thing you could do is just use a tablespoon of butter when you fry the cumin seed and the black pepper, because it's not like you need like 2 tablespoons for that amount of spice too.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I have my ground cumin and black pepper.
Oh, and you have your asafetida.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
which is like the best smell.
And some people hate it, that smell. So I love it. I think it's amazing. But it's definitely like a divisive ingredient.
Yeah.
In my mom's family, they don't use any onion or garlic usually in their cooking. So asafetida, which is the sap of a fennel plant, when it's fried in oil or ghee, it kind of gives off that flavor of like leek, or like kind of, you know, onion.
Now I'm smelling the onioniness of it. I had not picked up on that before. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, sizzling, going in. Give it a little swirl. I'm gonna add my asafetida. Okay, I smell it. Here comes the excitement. You ready, Mike? Sizzly.
And then if you want to save a little bit of the butter that's in the pot, I sometimes put a tiny bit of the rice in there and then take it out. I
love that tip.
That's a mom tip.
That's a, like, you don't want to waste any of that good chunk. So this just sort of like wipes out all, see, that would have all been left behind.
Yeah.
All of it would have been left behind, and we don't want that. And now the pot's basically clean. Well, not.
We won't wash it.
You're just gonna put it into your cupboard now, right?
Genius.
And now, yeah, that's it. And we just have the cashews for garnish.
Thank
Amazing.
you so much. I wish that I could just serve you a big.
I know. I want some now. I'm like, now I'm gonna go make some instead of the pizza.
Yeah. Ben can wait for pizza for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I guess I could just steal a spoonful from the pot while you're still here. We could talk about it.
Yeah. Some people will eat it just like that and put a little bit more butter on it. And then, or you put, I like to add yogurt and then the achar and mix that and eat it like that.
This is the one I have because I need to restock on the others.
Yogurt and like an achar like that adds kind of like a tangy flavor to the huggi, which is a great complement to it. If you don't have poppers, like sometimes when I was growing up, we would just use like Ruffles potato chips and like eat it with it. So like that's how my dad was saying that people eat this with like yogurt, achar, and also poppers. But like that's another thing because then it adds like this funny crunchy element to it. But
I love that. So would you like kind of sprinkle those on top, or would you use it to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you would sprinkle it on top or just like eat it with it. You know what I mean? So you're kind of like having a chip and then eating it. But yeah. And some people, yes, add even more ghee. It's like this is when people go to town, basically.
Do you think Doritos Cool Ranch would work?
That would be different, but it's crunchy.
How about Cheetos? I'll go.
That's so good. I love this recipe, Chitra. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing it too.
My pleasure. People are gonna love it. So I'm gonna go make myself a big plate of it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. This recipe is so comforting and delicious. All of us are big fans of it. I hope that you will try it, and I hope that you will check out Chitra's cookbook, Vibrant India, and also her incredibly delicious line of condiments and other fun things at Brooklyn Deli to make everything that needs a little more excitement much more exciting. For those of you who watched last week and saw me put my scallions in to regrow in some water, I have some sad news. The other times that I've done this, within a week they have shot up to be basically as tall as they were before. These have been sort of stunted. I'm not sure what's going on. I have faith. I'm going to keep changing their water and putting them in sun and seeing if they keep growing. But if you have any ideas on why my scallions are not regrowing, I would love to hear. Yes. Do you have any ideas? For more genius recipes like this every week, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel and check out all of Chitra's other work in her cookbook Vibrant India and her condiments at Brooklyn Deli. And we will see you next week, and maybe my scallions will have grown a little bit more. See you next time.